Hello there! In case you couldn't tell by my last video, my last two videos actually, it's time to talk about one of the more infamous members of the wrestling world, the Shockmaster. In honor, I've had the Shockmaster figure sitting around, and when I dug him up to do some of those videos, he kind of sat around. It's like, man, I love the Shockmaster. I love the name. I love the character design, and I love that somebody thought this would be awesome. Imagine if he didn't fall. Well, we'll get to that in a second. First, let me just briefly talk about the figure. This was a part of Jack's wrestling line. It was, I think, like the second or third to last wave they did of classics. I want to say it was second, because I remember him coming out late in '09 when like the last batch of their figures were being made. Now, for a while when I was doing the WrestleCrap collection figures, like I had a Keem and a certain version of Warrior that was used in a Phil Collins video, and what else did I have? I bought the Dusty Rhodes and Polka Dots. I had Rocky Maivia. I got a lot of stuff I really wouldn't have cared about otherwise. But even if I hadn't done that shelf, I still would have bought Shockmaster. He is arguably one of the worst, baddest ideas ever in wrestling. And for whatever reason, I still love the character. It's just such an odd look. Okay, first of all, when the figure was announced, I don't remember if they even showed him with the duster on, but they showed him without the mask. It's Fred Ottman, who you recognize as Tugboat and Typhoon. He had this big, the big black duster vest jacket thing, and I love how on the figure the shoulder areas kind of flare up as they do in the picture, which means they did get that detail right. It does look like he's wearing a belt with like a clear brown strap belt. They just kind of painted a button on him there, but that's alright. But the pièce de résistance has to be the helmet. And if you can't tell by the picture, or if you didn't know, it's supposed to be a Stormtrooper helmet from Star Wars. Someone went out, bought a replica Stormtrooper helmet. Those things are not that cheap. They're like $200. And they spray painted it this silver and blue glitter color. I keep hearing silver, I've heard blue, I've heard glitter, I've heard whatever else. The actual helmet here, it's kind of a mushed up thing where you got like this vague sort of, this vague sort of eye slit where the Stormtrooper eyes would be. It's close enough and the shape is good enough for what they could do. Because there's a lot of people saying, well, they can't do it. Star Wars, George Lucas. George Lucas never met income he didn't like. He'd want his cut. So they made it look close enough that you could still have it be a Stormtrooper helmet and still not, get in trouble. Because the Stormtrooper helmet is key. Yeah, the figure. Now, I went online. Some people are surprised they even made this. It's like, I didn't know they made a Shockmaster figure. It's like, holy crap, they made a Shockmaster figure. And if you've seen those, like, the backs of some of those Jakks figures, where they give, like, a rundown of the character's history, they had nothing on the back for Shockmaster. It just said, like, debut, 1993. That was pretty much it. To the best of my knowledge, I think he's only wrestled the one match. But yeah, I'd say, typical fat man body. I'm not trying to pick on Fred Ottman, but he was a big fat dude. Still is. He is still alive. And now that I've gone looking online for the figure, it's like I looked on Amazon and I looked on eBay. They had one on eBay that was autographed, I think, by Fred Ottman. It showed a picture of a guy with glasses holding it. It looked a little like Fred, so I'll assume it was him. And others that I've seen on Amazon are just ridiculously high also. And I am going to say this right now, this is a figure I don't think I could get rid of, ever. I have to. This is arguably my favorite of the WrestleCrap figures. It's like I always get like, you know, of your figures, what are your favorites? And from my original like 5 videos that I had, where I had like modern, I had like classic WWF, I had modern WWE, I had deluxe, and then you go down to WCW, ECW, and then I had, if you see here, this little nightstand, that is where I had the WrestleCrap figures, because I just ran out of room, and that bottom shelf just makes it hard to, it would make it easier for them to get knocked over. I had that as the WrestleCrap figures. It's just like bad ideas and gimmicks in wrestling. But anyway, let's cover what Wikipedia says really quick. Let's see. Fred Ottman, ring names: Big Bubba, Bubba the Belt Collector, U.S. Steel, Big Man Steel, Tugboat Thomas, Tugboat Typhoon, the Shockmaster, and Super Shockmaster. Oh my, there's a Super Shockmaster? Oh, awesome. Super Shockmaster. It's like Shockmaster for the Super Nintendo. 6'3", 384 pounds, born August 10th, 1956, Norfolk, Virginia. Lives in Lakeland, Florida. He debuted in '84, retired in '96. And they talk about, you know, working in WWF as Tugboat and natural disasters. Clearly we're not interested in that. We've got to get to the Shockmaster. Let's just cover really quick natural disasters. Earthquake took a leave of absence from WWF in early '93. Ottman wrestled in low-profile single matches before leaving the company that spring. The Shockmaster incident. After departing from WWF, Ottman would find himself in the center of one of the most infamous moments in wrestling history. WCW recently signed Ottman. He was going to make his debut in a match alongside the fan-favorite teams of Sting, Dustin Rhodes, and Davey Boy Smith. He would later, he would be their mystery partner in the upcoming 8-man tag match against the villainous team composed of Sid Vicious, Big Van Vader, and Harlem Heat at Fall Brawl, and was a replacement for Road Warrior Hawk, who had been advertised. On A Flair for the Gold, an interview segment hosted by Ric Flair in front of a live audience at Clash of Champions 24, Sting and Smith were confronted by Sid and Harlem Heat, demanding to know the identity of their new partner. Sting exclaimed, "All I have to say is our partner is going to shock the world, because he is none other than the Shockmaster!" The camera zoomed in on a particular section of the set where 2 torches set off a small pyrotechnics explosion in front of a sheetrock wall. Ottman was supposed to make a dramatic entrance by crashing through the wall. His new costume consisted of a Star Wars Stormtrooper helmet painted silver and covered in glitter, a pair of jeans, and a long black vest. Instead, Ottman tripped over a piece of lumber that was framing the set, causing his helmet to fall off and slide across the floor. As he scrambled to put the helmet back on and get to his feet, Flair audibly exclaimed, "Oh God." Ottman slowly walked toward the wrestlers and stood menacing in an attempt to salvage the disaster. Booker T of Harlem Heat asked, "Who's this motherfucker?" And Smith exclaimed, "He fell flat on his ass! He fell flat on his fucking ass!" Both these comments were audible to the audience and television viewers and would later be partially censored in fewer showings of the footage by the WWE. Dusty Rhodes later revealed in an episode of WWE 24/7's Legends of Wrestling that the piece of lumber previously wasn't there during a successful practice run, and it was later put there by David Crockett without informing Ottman. Sid Vicious and Harlem Heat were visibly struggling to contain their laughter as Ottman began his promo, which was actually voiced by Ole Anderson. The situation only got worse as Anderson started giggling at the beginning and mistakenly called Sid Stid at one stage. Despite zero crowd reaction leaving the announcers speechless, WCW decided to continue with the feud. World Wrestling Entertainment, which now owns all rights to WCW and its video library, has described the Shockmaster's debut as, quote, one of the most unintentionally funny moments in sports entertainment history, and, quote, a debacle that still some consider the worst gaffes in the history of sports entertainment. While Ottman was displeased with the turn of events, he now finds humor in the incident. Post-Shockmaster, WCW attempted to salvage the incident by introducing a new character called the Super Shockmaster, also portrayed by Ottman. This is intended to be the Shockmaster's nephew, who would then refer to the Shockmaster as Uncle Fred, subsequently entering the ring to a distorted version of the Beatles song Day Tripper. The Shockmaster is portrayed as a klutz until the character is eventually abandoned. Return to WWF. Ottman returned to WWF as Typhoon in May of '94, primarily being used to put over other talent before leaving in August. So that's more or less the history of the character, the Shockmaster. Wow. And let's take a look at what WrestleCrap had to say. Excuse me. Yes, the Shockmaster. Worst entrance ever. WCW early 90s. In doing research for the death of WCW, I decided that aside from 2000 and 2001, the years in which the company went completely belly up, 93 may have been the single worst year in the company's existence. The sheer amount of idiotic decisions the company made during these 12 months was simply mind-boggling. There's the infamous Beach Blast mini-movie in which a one-eyed midget named Cheatham swam across the ocean with a shark fin on his back to plant a bomb on Sting's boat. The reunion of the legendary Four Horsemen featuring the worst horseman of all time. Cactus Jack became a sailor after losing his memory, and to wrap up that year we had Sid Vicious cutting his title aspirations short, quite literally in a scissor fight with Arn Anderson. And then there was the Shockmaster. Going into Fall Brawl 93, Sting and Davey Boy Smith were in need of a partner to take on Sid Vicious and Harlem Heat. So who do they turn to? Ric Flair? Dusty Rhodes? Maybe even Cactus Jack, who had given up his seafaring ways? Good choices all, but none with the balls-out mega superstar drawing power of the Shockmaster. Thank you, Dusty Rhodes. Shockmaster is actually a friend of Rhodes named Fred Ottman, who portrayed such unmemorable characters as Tugboat and Typhoon. While those gimmicks certainly stunk, neither ranks as high on the sucko-meter as the Shockmaster, who was set to be introduced to a live nationwide audience in spectacular fashion. There was to be an explosion, and then Shocky was to come out and stir fear in his adversaries. The problem is he tripped on his way out. Yes, poor Fred fell right on his face, and his mask, which was a Star Wars Stormtrooper mask covered in silver glitter. Where were your lawyers, George Lucas? He fell to the floor. As Freddy stumbled to his feet, you could almost hear the angle screech to a halt. But then Shocky cut a killer interview that saved the show. Well, not really. Actually, a pre-recorded tape rolled with dialogue that was supposedly coming from the Shockmaster, and that is this.
They call me the Shockmaster. You rule the world. Long enough, Sid Vicious. Get ready. Come on, you want a piece of me?
I love that voice. Hey, wasn't that the Black Scorpion? You got sharp ears. Ole Anderson used the exact same voice effects for the Shockmaster as they did the Scorpion. Maybe Shock should have started throwing out random dates and locations to Sid. Sid, Memphis, 1991. You stunk up the Mid-South Coliseum. As bad as that was, the worst part of the night might have been that poor Sid Vicious and Harlem Heat shaking in their boots and all of a guy who just splattered his face into the concrete floor. Say what you would about Sid, and God knows we do, but you have to give the poor guy credit for at least trying to sell this clumsy adversary as someone to fear, which is more than what can be said of Jesse Ventura, who made Shocky look like a total idiot with his commentary. And if we go to, let's see, Shockmaster. This is also from that DVD. Hold on, is this? Yep, there we have a GIF. Oh, Shocky. Just keeps going. Yes, right here, Jesse.
What an entrance by the Shockmaster! We're full of
What an entrance by the Shockmaster. We're full of spectacular entrances, is what he said. Oop, I shouldn't have closed that. Oh well. The Shockmaster was short-lived following his big debut. He wrestled in a handful of matches before WCW gave him a new identity, Uncle Fred, whose gimmick was that he was clumsy. Amazingly, this did not get over. I know, I find it hard to believe too. After such a horrific start, it shouldn't come to a surprise that Ottman was shown the door. Rumors that he tripped on his way out are unsubstantiated. And then you have here, Black Scorpion, the Shockmaster. They call me the Shockmaster. You ruled the world long enough, Sid Vicious. Come on, you want a piece of me? Jesse Ventura, barely able to compose himself. What an entrance by the Shockmaster. We're full of spectacular entrances. In case you're wondering, this link, which says George Lucas ain't going to be happy about this, will take you to the induction for the Star Wars Holiday Special, which is an honorary induction on WrestleCrap.
Well, why is the Star Wars Holiday Special on WrestleCrap? I mean, they're supposed to be about wrestling, but they would never induct anything from TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, because Alex Shelley and Beer Money and Team Me and all that other bullshit is the greatest wrestling in the whole wide world.
Yeah, Star Wars Holiday Special. It's... Hey, if Drew Carey can be in the WWE Hall of Fame, celebrity wing or no, then Star Wars Holiday Special can be on the WrestleCrap Hall of Shame. Now, did he have any memorable matches? No. He had arguably the most memorable entrance ever. Falling over seems to be a great mark of awfulness. Another one of my favorite things is when it was in 2005, leading up to Taboo Tuesday, I think it was. They were going to get Austin, and Austin backed out because he didn't want to put Coachman over when I guess he found out Jim Ross wasn't coming back. I don't remember the whole story. And so they got Goldust to back up Coachman with a falling over Vader. Vader fell on his way out of the ring. It was like the last time, to my knowledge, he was ever shown on TV. And I think there's a lot of people saying, what if the Shockmaster didn't trip and fall? And Lance Storm, in his interview with WrestleCrap, I'd say, I think people got to write in and ask Lance Storm all sorts of questions. I mean, oh my God, really quick, here we're talking about a horrible gimmick, which I love. Let's get to Lance Storm. The guy is anything but boring, and I have no idea what WWE was thinking. I mean, this is a guy who is a great wrestler. Well, clearly he is a great wrestler. He was trained in Canada by the Hart family. How could anyone not be a good wrestler who came from there? I think, he's a great wrestler. He cut good promos. I mean, maybe not the greatest, but good. His interviews and shoots are great. And WWE says he's boring. And, in his interview, he's even saying, they're doing this gimmick with me and Steve. If they're just going to bury me, why are they using Steve Austin? They're not going to waste him on something stupid. For one reason it fell apart. But I guess I'm thinking is, he said, the gobbledygooker and the Shockmaster. I mean, and in that Legends Roundtable thing on 24/7, I saw some of that on YouTube last night when I was, kind of on continuing my Shockmaster fix. I think Dusty was saying, the Shockmaster and the Gooker, got to be the worst, ever. I'd say the Gooker is still worse, because it's kind of the reason why in Transformers 2, I didn't mind the twin cars, the ones that sound like they could be voiced by Tracy Morgan, as much as I did the parents, because at least Skids and Mudflap were Transformers, and action is going to be where they are. The Shockmaster was billed to be a big wrestler, like a new threat wrestler, hero, or whatever. And what's the Gooker? It was a turkey that came out of an egg, and the audience booed it immediately. I mean, Unless Vince McMahon really thought a wrestling turkey would be a great idea. And who knows? I mean, that costume is freaking huge. You know, I got Hector Guerrero inside of it trying to do, you know, Dance with Mean Gene. I mean, I do not see how the wrestling turkey would have even came about. Who knows? But I could at least see the Shockmaster as a wrestler. Now, like a lot of people said, you know, oh, you know, if only he hadn't tripped and fell over. Lance said, no, even if he didn't, it still would have sucked. It's Fred Ottman in a Stormtrooper helmet. And you think about it, it's a big fat guy in a Stormtrooper mask with this big vest and blue jeans on who bursts through a wall. I mean, it's just the most bizarre idea ever, and somebody thought it was going to be a money maker, because I mean they're not going to waste valuable, you know, lean tissue and time and caffeine into the night trying to think up characters. I mean, like, it's kind of like one of those reasons I think they even talked about in one of the WrestleCrap books. It's like The Undertaker, one of the silliest ideas ever. A dead man who has this weird little dude following him around with an urn who gets powers from it and can't die. It sounds so stupid, and yet he's arguably one of the most popular characters ever. And he says this is the reason why, you know, a lot of promoters throw shit at a wall and wonder what'll stick. I mean, then you have like guys like Big Josh, a lumberjack from my favorite hometown ever, The Woods, who had dancing bears following him. It's like, jeez. I can see why some people miss WCW. It's like this is also the promotion that had the Chamber of Horrors match where, you know, you had to like lock someone in an electric chair and electrocute them. I think like Weekly Visitor even said nobody does spectacularly bad ideas like WCW, but at least it's funny bad, not bad bad. I don't know. It's like, oh man, the Shockmaster. I hope Mattel makes another one. I will get that one too. I would love to get a spare just to put on my wall, or at least put above my window. It's almost like this is, I guess another reason I really like Shockmaster is you could see this guy as being like a superhero. You know, it's like it's that same time where you had those like superhero characters. You had like Hulk Hogan who could Hulk up and defeat anybody. You had, you know, the Ultimate Warrior, this man from the heavens, you know, sculpted like an Adonis who, you know, shook the ropes and got power and was unbeatable. And then you had characters like even later on like Kane, who had a story behind him. He was burned in a fire and he wants revenge on Undertaker. You had Undertaker, a dead man who can't die because he's like a zombie and then became a biker or whatever. I think that's why some people like to forget the biker version of the character. And you have Shockmaster, this like would-be superhero guy who wears a Stormtrooper helmet and breaks through walls like the Kool-Aid Man. Hey, don't go on your screensaver. Anyway, yeah, love the Shockmaster. Hope you found this entertaining. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.